How you guys doing? This is the Mouth of the South, John Schiavone, and the Beast of the East, Jonathan Periente from Downtown Sports, where sports come home. Are you registered to vote at your current address? It's a really important question. You know, more than 60% of eligible voters have never been asked to register. Headcount.org is working to change that.
At headcount.org, you can also check your registration status. Millions of people get purged from the voter rolls every year. Everyone should check their registration status every year. The deadline to register to vote in some states is as early as October 4th, so you want to check before then.
You could also request an absentee ballot, get info on early voting, and find your polling place, or see who's even on your ballot.
Headcount is a nonpartisan, nonprofit that tours with musicians to help concert attendees register to vote. But you don't need to leave your house to register or get voting info. Just visit headcount.org.
Register to vote today at www.headcount.org. Once again, www.headcount.org. Let your voice be heard. Don't let yourself be voiceless. Register to vote.
NFL draft tomorrow night. Who will be on the board for the Jets and the Giants? What players will they take? What moves do they need to make? Well, I have a great compadre that's going to help me answer those very questions. My co-host, the Mouth of the South, John Schiavone. We are Downtown Sports. Let's dive into it.
It's coming to you from Quarantine Ashore. I'm actually in Quarantine Ashore. John is in Quarantine Marina, right? So we're coming to you from our foxholes. As you can see, John is one of these people that he has a foxhole. He's well prepped. He's got like all different types of military style MREs ready to go for his quarantine. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here eating canned string beans. But we're here to talk sports with you. It's Downtown Sports. I'm Mouth. It's John. And John, what's going on with this NFL draft? Because all the news and the rumors I'm hearing today really don't make sense, John.
There are a lot of rumors spreading around who the Giants and Jets and other teams might be targeting. Some teams might move up on the board. Some might try to go down. But the NFL draft will be tomorrow night. It's going to be held under different circumstances. It won't be held in its usual settings like in Nashville or like at the Barclays Center or yada, yada. No, Roger Goodell is going to do the draft apparently from his basement. And the players are all going to be in their homes.
From his basement. From his basement.
Well, yeah. They're going to have to be a little outside the box this year, I guess you can put it. What's wrong with being outside the box?
Nothing wrong with being outside the box. It's just you would think. I wonder what kind of basement Roger Goodell has, though. That's the thing. I wonder what kind of basement, how they're going to set his basement up. His basement better look better than any of our basements combined, I swear. If it doesn't, if it looks like just a stupid normal basement, then I'm going to be very upset.
Well, that's going to be a very, very interesting question. But I guess we're all going to get a look at how Roger Goodell keeps his house clean, I guess. We'll all kind of say, damn, that's the basement he lives out of? God, look at all that fancy jewelry and all that fancy schmancy pictures in there. How do you have the money for all that?
Yeah, I know how he got the money for all that. Well, let's get into this. So I think you want to go Jets first, right? Because there's a big question on Jets fans' minds. I'm just gonna put this forth to everybody. We have a big question on Jet fans' minds right now, right?
Yep.
Should they draft an offensive tackle or should they draft a wide receiver? This is a very hard choice. I'm gonna equate the type of choice this is to other very hard choices in life, okay? Do you get the filet mignon or do you get the liver shank? That's the kind of choice this is. Or do you buy Cinnamon Toast Crunch or do you buy off-brand dollar store shredded wheat? I got another choice that's this difficult, right? Do you buy orange juice? Or do you buy 100% pure, unadulterated cranberry juice?
It's good for your cranberry juice.
I mean,
But let's
but do you get the wide receiver or the offensive tackle? You get the damn wide out. You get the wide out.
and there are a lot of good ones on this board. Let's take a look at the main top 15 players in this draft. And there are 3 very talented wide receivers coming out of this first round that any one of them I think could be great on the Jets. But there's one in particular that I think the Jets do need to go after, and I'll get to him in a sec. But we have CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma, the 6'2 wide receiver. You have Henry Ruggs, the 5'11 wide receiver out of Alabama. And then, of course, the crown jewel, Jerry Jeudy, the 6'1 wide receiver out of Alabama, played alongside his fellow teammate in CeeDee Lamb. So this is going to be a very, very interesting question. The Jets go number 11 in the draft. And you have 3 different wide receivers. Maybe 1 or 2 of them could possibly go off the board before the Jets' turn comes. And then you're left with the decision, which of these 3 are really good? All 3 of them have very unique qualities to them. That's the good thing about all 3 of them. But a good wide receiver has to have a couple of very important credentials. Not just speed, not just good hands, not just athleticism, but to be able to see down the field, to see a play develop right in front of him and be able to see it and then just go with it to his advantage. A great wide receiver has to have basically 4 of those credentials. A lot of them maybe will have 2, maybe 3 of them, but very few turn out to have all of them. For me, Jerry Jeudy is the one for the Jets that I think will have all 4 of those credentials.
Well, I just saw a mock draft that might change your opinion.
Let me hear it.
So, according to, I believe this is CBS Sports, this was released today at 11:50 in the morning. The final mock draft that CBS Sports seems to be releasing, they have Joe Burrow going to the Bengals, Chase Young going to the Redskins. And let's take a look at the Jets. They actually have the Jets picking an offensive lineman, unfortunately, John.
Well, it's kind of a tough choice.
This might change your mind.
Okay.
This might change your mind.
Okay.
They think Mekhi Becton is going to fall to 11.
That's been a possibility. I've been hearing Becton, maybe Jedrick Wills could be an option, a guy that could fall to 11. Now, listen, the Jets do need an offensive line. That is absolutely true. They did sign a couple of offensive linemen during the offseason, which is great, but they need a lineman for the left side to ensure Sam Darnold is protected and won't get knocked to the ground a million times like he did this past year.
Well, this man is 6'7", 364 pounds, and you're hearing a lot of bad stuff come out about this kid. You're saying, oh, he's an attitude problem, and he when he went to the combine. Now, they said he tested positive for drugs, but they're talking that it was marijuana. Now, my opinion on this is, if you have the potential to make millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to play a game, and the one thing they said to you was don't smoke weed, I would literally be spending that entire time thinking about how when I retire, I'm going to roll up the biggest joint in earth. When I am no longer an NFL player, I'm going to smoke and smoke happily. But while I'm making this millions of dollars, I'm just not going to do it. I mean, there's a matter of self-control that you have to have when you're trying to, be in the NFL. And I understand in the next...
It seems like self-control is what a lot of them lack.
Well, but here's the other thing, though. In a way, I almost feel that marijuana prohibition in the NFL is stupid, and the Players Union and the NFL have both agreed to this in further contracts. But since this combine ran along the same lines as, the previous contract, the new contract doesn't start until the new season, correct, John?
Yeah.
So pretty much, this is a thing that wouldn't have even been a problem if this took place 1 year later. Nobody would have said a damn thing to the guy about smoking a little bud. But it's this year. These are the rules. This is what's in place. And if you want to be set for the rest of your life as a millionaire on a first round NFL draft contract, then don't smoke. But fortunately for you, the Jets, the NFL, a lot of NFL teams are looking at that as a gigantic red flag. And to me, the guy who's probably the number one lineman in that draft in terms of upside could actually fall to the Jets. If he's available, I'm not sure you can't take him at 11.
Yeah, because here's the thing. You will not get an offensive lineman like this later in the draft. You could for a wide receiver. You can always draft a wide receiver in a later round. An offensive lineman are not that easy. When you see a good lineman, you better take him when he's there. And the Jets need an offensive line. They need help still to protect Darnold. At the same time, though, yeah, it's a very tough thing to pass up if a wide receiver happens to fall to the Jets and you need that wide receiver for Sam Darnold to be able to get that ball to his number one guy. It's a very, very tough decision, and this will not be easy for Joe Douglas to make, but he has to go with really what do the Jets really need at this given time. Do I think about protecting Darnold, or do I get him a weapon that he really needs to be a top NFL quarterback?
Yeah, but then here's the other problem that you're dealing with the Jets. Ready?
Yep.
Joe Douglas is your GM and Adam Gase is your coach. Those are the two big ingredients for failure for the New York Jets right now. Because Adam Gase would be the type to take a wide receiver in the first round. He would also be the type to take a wide receiver that fits into his specific mold and his specific offense and his specific plan. So to me, if you take the wide receiver, what that says is that Joe Douglas and Jets ownership is completely committed to Adam Gase as the coach, not just for this year, but for years beyond. So for the Jets right now, it's kind of like you're dealing with a double-edged sword. Do you take an O-lineman, which you know you need, which you know you would be able to keep no matter who your coach is? Or do you put trust in Adam Gase and take a wideout?
That's a very good question. I trust Joe Douglas. I like what he's done with the Jets since he's taken over. He made important moves when you had to make them in the offseason. The Jets needed a center. They got Greg Van Roten. They needed a right tackle. They got Connor McGovern. They needed a wide receiver. They got Brashad Perriman after losing Robbie Anderson to free agency. They needed help on the secondary. They got Desir out of the Colts. They added Anwar from the Ravens. In a way, Douglas, I might remind you, he's worked alongside Ozzie Newsome before, one of the better GMs in the game. So if he's learned anything from being a good GM, you learn it through Ozzie Newsome with the Ravens. He learned some good things from him, and I think he's bringing it very clearly here to the Jets. And I like where he's going with this team, and I think he needs to make the right decision here. For me, as tough as it sounds, I think a wide receiver is what the Jets have been missing. Do you know how many times the Jets have drafted a wide receiver in the first round of a draft?
I don't think it's been... Hasn't been since the 90s.
2001 was the last time the Jets drafted a wide receiver in the first round. You know who that was? You know who that was? Santana Moss.
Wow.
Santana Moss, who the Jets drafted in 2001. Before that, it was Keyshawn Johnson in 1996. Before that,
I was thinking Keyshawn. I forgot Santana Moss was drafted by the Jets.
Before that, it was Al Toon in 1985. And then before that, it was around the beginning of the Jets' history as a franchise. So the Jets, in their entire 50-year history, have only drafted 5 times a wide receiver in round 1. Only 5 times.
5 times drafting a wide receiver in round 1, and that's translated into 1 Super Bowl win in 1969.
There you go. That's it. It's incredible how many wide receivers the Jets could have had all those 50 years that they missed out on.
Well, if you want to talk about the biggest Jet draft mistake in history, that was taking Richard Todd over Dan Marino because Dan Marino had a bad back. For our older listeners, I'm sure older Jet fans that are listening right now are probably all having flashbacks to, reading about that in the paper that, they took Richard Todd instead of Dan Marino. And I remember my father, who was a Jets season ticket holder, would be going to Shea Stadium and just be like, oh, Dick Todd again. Here you go, Dick. Nice interception, Dick. Literally, they could have had Dan Marino, but they drafted that Dick. Was literally every Jets fan's reaction to that. So the Jets have a history of drafting bad. So the big problem that I have is that Adam Gase is the coach. So to me, Adam Gase just wants his own people that fit his system. Offensive linemen, no matter who they are, fit any system. So to me, drafting O-line is the safe pick. But if you draft a wideout, it's almost as if you're giving Adam Gase a free pass to do whatever he wants. I think that's the reservation that a Jet fan might have. But unfortunately, I agree with John. You should take a wideout. Unless it's literally that guy that I just mentioned falling to 11, the Jets should take a wideout because Sam Darnold needs targets. And he needs a hands guy more than anything. That's the thing. You need to draft a hands guy. So I don't know if the later round wide receivers are hands people. So if I'm the Jets, your biggest need's wideout. If wideout is the best player on the board, you got to take wideout. That's just it.
Well, that's going to be a very good and very important decision the Jets are going to have to make starting tomorrow. And look, the Jets also, I like where their position is. They have at least 8, 9 draft picks this year. But here's the deal. After this round at number 11 in the first round, they won't draft again until the 48th pick in the second round. And then after that, around the 70s, and then about 100 down. And then, so they're going to have to really make this draft count with the draft picks that they have. I'm going to take a quick look at the Jets draft picks and where they're going to go here. And it's here we go. So the Jets will have the number 11 pick in round 1, the 48th pick in round 2, the 68th pick in round 3, then the 79th pick still in round 3, then 120th pick in round 4, 158th pick in round 5, and then 100 and hold on, 100 and then the 191st pick in the 6th round. So that's about 7 draft picks right there if you're the Jets, and pretty good 7 draft picks it is for them to have for the near future. But the key is the first round pick is going to really turn the wheels for the rest of the draft picks going forward in the following rounds.
So that takes care of the Jets.
Now the Giants. Where will they go?
Oh, I don't know, because let me just get into that, because the Giants have now become the biggest clown show in the history of New York football at the moment.
I wonder where we had clown shows from. Woody Johnson.
Well, no, Woody Johnson, like, first off, I don't know. The Giants just, it must suck to be a Jets fan, because the Giants have even proven that the Giants can actually stink and implode and become an even bigger embarrassment than the Jets. So now, not only are the Giants the bigger winner in the city, they had more Super Bowls, more prestige, and now when the Giants decide they're going to screw the pooch, they've screwed the pooch with gusto, and they're going to continue screwing that pooch because of the rumors that I'm hearing coming out of Giants headquarters and Dave Gettleman talking about possibly being interested in drafting Shane Herbert. Why?
Why do they need a quarterback? Why do they need another quarterback?
I don't know. I mean, did I agree with Daniel Jones being drafted at 6? No. I looked at the kid and said, But is this going to be another type of situation where Joe Judge doesn't like the quarterback? Daniel Jones was Pat Shurmur's, the apple of Pat Shurmur's eye. In fact, if Herbert was available last year in the draft, Daniel Jones would not be a Giant today. Because reportedly, Herbert was the quarterback that they really wanted. So this could lead to a lot of different things, but let's go through what the mock draft is for the first 15 rounds, and we'll see. Right now, CBS has the Giants picking Jedrick Willis, which to me doesn't necessarily make that much sense. I think Thomas would be more the way to go.
The Giants need defense. That's what they don't have. They need defense.
We need an O-line. We haven't had an O-line since 2008. Like, the 09 team that won the Super Bowl. The 09 team that won the Super Bowl, their O-line was starting to get weaker. And then the team that won it next time in 2013, their O-line was weaker still.
Where's a Sean O'Hara and a David Deal when you need them?
They're in this draft and you have to get them. That's the thing. If I were the Giants, I would be drafting one of two people. I would either be drafting Becton or I'd be drafting Thomas. Here's what I think the Giants are going to do. I think the Giants are going to either A, trade back their pick, because from what I'm hearing, Miami, now this is a little bit of a curveball here. Miami has reported that they are looking to trade with the Detroit Lions to get to 3 so that Miami can then draft Tua.
There's been a lot of talk about him.
For Tua.
There's been a lot of talk about Tua in Miami. I could see that.
But another report is also saying that they might be trying to jump the Giants to get a crack at an offensive lineman.
That could be Becton or Jedrick Wills or maybe even Wirfs, any of them.
So Jedrick Wills is the one that everybody thinks the Giants are going after. Miami also has eyes for this guy. And everybody seems to forget that Rosen is still on the Miami Dolphins. They still have a young, viable quarterback.
I thought Rosen was a bust. I thought Rosen stunk.
But did he ever play? Does anybody know? I kind of think
Cardinals had him.
You gotta put the.
He was on the Cardinals. He stunk. Why do you think the Cardinals got rid of him? Even Kingsbury couldn't keep him. Even Kingsbury didn't see.
Wanted Kyler Murray. That was just straight up. You knew the Cardinals were going to draft Kyler Murray. They wanted Kyler Murray. That there was nothing around that. That's who they wanted. If Rosen worked out, that would have been fine. But they literally killed a quarterback coach combo within a year to go with another quarterback rookie combo. Like, Arizona just does business weird, so I don't think Rosen should be judged on that. And then he goes to the other place that does business completely weird in Miami. But I think Rosen got to sit behind a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick and watch how an NFL quarterback does his job. Not even the best NFL quarterback, but a quarterback that has had longevity in the league, that plays and starts for multiple different teams and multiple different times. This guy is always finding a way to start in the NFL every year for some team somewhere. He's on the field.
True.
Whether or not he's the vaulted starter that everybody thought he was going to be, or if he was backing up somebody and that somebody got hurt, and then Fitzpatrick comes in and then takes over the job for the rest of the year. That seems to be the Ryan Fitzpatrick MO. He did that with the Jets. He did that with the Dolphins. He did that with the Bills. He's done that with everybody. So
exactly.
Rosen has had to deal with 2 different weird situations. Now, here's the thing. I think Rosen sitting behind a guy like Fitzpatrick might have helped him mature a bit. So perhaps if Miami improves the offensive line, which is something they've needed to do for years, perhaps if they get one of these linemen, maybe they're thinking, hey, we could keep Rosen and see what we could do about getting another quarterback later on down the line. Because if I'm not mistaken, Miami also has the 18th pick, and they're interested in Justin Love. Am I correct?
I believe so. Let me take a look at the Dolphins. Right now, the Dolphins have the number 5 pick. They have the number 18 pick they got from Pittsburgh. So they're going to have 2, and they have a 26th pick in the first round. They have 3 draft picks in round 1 to the Dolphins. 3 of them.
The Dolphins have a chance to get a quarterback. I don't see how the Dolphins are going to trade to 3 to get Tua, because to me, if you look at it, Burrow is going 1 to the Bengals, unless Burrow makes it extremely clear that he doesn't want to be a Bengal, and Tua shows enough recovery from his injuries. Because if I'm not sure if Tua's injury prone, but that injury in the last year of your college career doesn't help much.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I don't see a scenario where Burrow doesn't go 1. If the Redskins don't pick Chase Young, the Lions will. That's first. Yes. You're not going to hear about any trades until after the 2nd pick, because 1 and 2, I think, are pretty set. Burrow's going 1, and Chase Young is going to be going 2. Unless Washington really just doesn't believe in Haskins at all. If that's the case, Tua's a Washington Redskin. And then that makes...
Very possible.
And then that
Very
makes the
possible.
third pick in the draft very interesting because we're hearing a lot of talk of Detroit trading the fifth pick with Miami to get the 26th pick out of Miami and the third pick. Miami would keep the 18th pick. That's the rumors that are flying around right now. So Miami would give away the
Okay.
26th pick and the fifth pick for the third pick, and then Miami goes Tua. Or if Chase Young drops, the Lions are not going to make that move at all, and they're just going to draft Chase Young and keep Matthew Stafford. That's the other thing. What happens with Matthew Stafford? Now, according to this mock draft, they have the Giants taking Jedrick Willis at 4, although I think Miami is looking to draft Jedrick Willis themselves, so I'm not sure how much I believe that. I still think Thomas is going to end up going to the Giants. And then they have Jeff Okuda going to the Lions, the corner out of the cornerback
Good is good.
out of Ohio State. And then they
Yes,
got the
three more
Chargers
have here
picking
to.
Justin Herbert at 6. And then Isaiah Simmons at 7, linebacker. Tristan Wirfs is going 8 to the Cardinals. Derek Brown on the D-line, 9. Andrew Thomas, 10. The Browns might get Andrew Thomas according to this mock draft. That's not something I need. And then the Jets, Becton falls to 11. CBS has Becton ranked the 4th best player on the board at his position, which I think is completely ridiculous. I think Becton has the most upside of any of those guys. He is literally a 6'7", 350-pound monster who can move laterally and play the point, kind of like bigger, stronger Leonard Williams.
That's pretty big if you can get a guy like that.
Yeah, like imagine how Leonard Williams plays multiple spots on the defense, is a monster, but has agility. Put that on the offensive line, and you get Becton. I just had to preface and explain that. I didn't want people to think, oh, watch, everybody on the comments. Oh, Mouth doesn't know that Leonard Williams is on defense, and Becton is an offensive lineman. Shut up, I've already predicted your hate. So back to this, I think the Giants, there's no way they don't draft O-line unless somehow Chase Young falls to them and unless somehow Tua falls to them. If Tua goes to 4,
Yeah.
what do the Giants do? Because to me, if I'm the Giants, I can see myself drafting Tua and then seeing which teams draft which linemen, holding on to either Tua or Jones, and then trading one of the two for that lineman, picks in a future draft next year, and other scenarios like that. In fact, let's take a look at the Giants 2020 draft board.
The Giants will have the 4th pick in the 2nd round as well as the 1st round. So after the Giants have their 4th pick in round 1, they go 36th in round 2, again from the 4 spot.
Yeah, exactly. They got first round 4, second round number 36 pick overall. The third round they get the 99th pick, fourth round 110th pick, fifth round 150th pick, sixth round 183rd, and they have 4 seventh round picks at 218, 238, 247, and 255. I could see the Giants
pick. They got the very last pick then. Wow.
I could see the Giants taking wide receiver at number 36 overall. There's going to be a lot of good in other drafts. They would have been considered first round talents, wideouts falling to the 2nd round. And that's the other reason I think the Jets might be able to get away with taking Becton at 11 is because the wideout talent pool in this draft is deep. But the Jets need a hands guy. Yeah. The Jets need a hands guy. They need somebody who's sure-handed to catch the football for Darnold. They don't have that yet.
For me, I think Jerry Jeudy would be a perfect fit. If I was the Jets, if Jeudy is there, you can't miss out on him.
Well, according to every mock draft, Jerry Jeudy would be there.
And he's one of the best hands in the wide receiver position I've seen.
But he would be there. He'd be there for the Jets.
Yeah. A lot of drafts have the Raiders taking Jeudy. If the Jets go with an O-line, the Raiders would come right after the Jets and take Jeudy.
Yep. I mean, I could see that happening. I could definitely see that happening. The Raiders need more weapons, and you know, the one thing I'm going to say about the NFL draft is everything we say is going to be completely and utterly wrong. I'm just predicting
Well,
that
we
now
don't know
because
that. Things could change. Things could change on a dime down here. We've
yeah,
seen
they
it.
can. I mean, look, did anybody on planet Earth have the Giants picking Daniel Jones?
Nope. Did anybody on the Knicks think they were going to get Kristaps Porzingis at number 4 or
Nope,
3 or whatever it was?
nope, nope. Nobody thought any of that. So, and Gettleman has been very good at surprising everybody. I mean, everybody thought the Giants were going to take Sam Darnold. Everybody thought the Giants were going to take Sam Darnold.
Yep.
What did they do? They let Sam Darnold fall to the Jets, and they took Saquon Barkley. When I saw
Not
that,
that was a bad thing. Not that was a bad thing.
that wasn't just a bad thing. That was the most catastrophic decision that's happened in the New York Giants over the past 5 years. I love Saquon Barkley. Don't get me wrong. I love him. I am glad that he is a New York Giant. Unfortunately, this was not the time to draft a running back as the number 2 pick in the draft when you had a quarterback like Darnold who was better than Daniel Jones. I'm sorry. Anybody who thinks Daniel Jones is better than Sam Darnold needs their head examined.
Yeah, Darnold already beat him. Darnold already beat him.
I don't know. The Giants' defense just beat itself every game this year. They still continue to beat themselves. They do need cornerback help. They need a lot of help. This Giants team needs to not be worrying about. In fact, if I'm the Giants, I would trade back if I could. I would either trade back or I'd draft one of the 2 big quarterbacks and force Miami to trade picks with me to get the quarterback.
One of them is Trayvon Diggs. He's another good option to get on the secondary. Trayvon Diggs, for those of you who don't know, is the brother of Stephon Diggs. So you'll have 2 of the brothers playing in the NFL very soon. Trayvon Diggs will be coming out of this draft, and could the Giants get him? Who knows? But it's a secondary that the Giants need help with.
And Diggs is very good. It can Diggs get to the second round though?
That's a very good question, and that we're not
Will he drop to the 36th overall? That's the thing. Or is Diggs going in the first round? There's too many teams that need corner help.
That's a very good question, and again, this is a kid out of Alabama, and Alabama produces great NFL-ready football players, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they do. They do. And do you know what? A very interesting article just came across my newsfeed on my phone that Nick Saban is actually going public and warning teams, don't make the same mistake that you guys made with Drew Brees with Tua. Stating that Tua should not fall in the draft like Drew Brees fell in the draft. That you want to draft a kid like Tua. Like Tua is going to be the next Drew Brees. Because everybody remembers Brees, injury history. I mean, even to this day, Brees still had injury problems. I mean, yeah, was he often injured? Yes. He spent 3 long stints on injured lists throughout his NFL career. Usually that kills most quarterbacks. Drew Brees? No, because he was one of the most skilled quarterbacks of his time. So, I think we're going to move off the draft. We'll see what happens on Thursday. Jets fans, pray for a wideout, I guess. Either a wideout or Becton. Watch the Jets draft something else that they completely don't need because Adam Gase fell in love with a player.
Defense again, which they do every year. They keep drafting a defensive end. They keep drafting another safety that we don't need. We don't need defense.
Maybe you need Diggs.
Trayvon Diggs is a cornerback. He's a cornerback. That's another defense. We already addressed the defensive issues. I think if you're the Jets, they boosted up their secondary. They got some help on the defensive line. They need offense.
Do you think the Giants shock the world and draft Diggs?
It could happen. Is the secondary, though, really the worst position the Giants are struggling in right now, or do they need a big pass rusher? Do they need a good edge rusher?
The Giants need a linebacking core. The Giants need a linebacking core. Do they need a big rusher? They need people in the middle to cover. Their linebackers can't cover anybody. Yep. So I don't even know who's a good pass rusher on the Giants D-line right now because linebackers can't hold tight ends for more than 2 seconds. Our safeties blow coverages constantly. The corners constantly lose their assignments on man to man. I have no idea how the defensive line works because the secondary's been so poor for so many years that it almost seems like a black hole that you can't crawl out of.
It's hard to believe when the Giants had Umanura, Strahan, JPP, Matthias Kiwanuka.
Gone are the days of the vaulted giant defense. Gone are those days, John.
I know. It's hard to believe the Giants once had a dominant squad like that on defense. It feels like forever they had that.
Yeah. And then what they did was, ever since the second Super Bowl victory, all they did was just not draft players, constantly cut salary, refuse to draft offensive line. Justin Pugh was the one guy they drafted, and he's a great player. Not on the Giants anymore, but he's a great player. Once again, another first-round pick that doesn't make their second contract for the New York Giants. Odell Beckham Jr. not making his second contract was the final nail in the coffin of the failure that was the Jerry Reese administration.
Yeah, blame Jerry Reese for all those failures.
Yeah, no.
Blame it all on Jerry Reese.
No. But we're getting a good batch of failures out of Gettleman, right? I mean, look, I love Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley is great. I just think he was at the wrong time. I like Daniel Jones. I really hope the Giants aren't thinking of drafting Herbert. Because if they're thinking of taking one of the two quarterbacks, and it's not Tua, then what are you doing?
This is how Gettleman thinks. This is how David Gettleman likes to make his moves and make his deals and surprise people. And then it backfires.
Surprise, 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 surprise. That's all they're doing is surprising all of us. So, here's another surprise. Ready, guys?
Please.
Unlike my opinions about professional baseball and the NBA, like John said, or NHL or any of these other sports, I actually think we could have a football season this year.
Really?
I actually think we could have a football season this year.
Okay.
The logistics in the NFL are much better set up than any of these other sports because each team is playing 15 games.
Okay.
They only play one game a week in the NFL. So, especially in one of these states that are opening up for business, quote unquote, what's to stop the NFL from going to a state like Texas, which you know is probably not going to be running college classes in the fall? You're probably not going to be seeing NCAA athletics in the fall because if you're closing colleges and universities, how are you going to expect the student athletes who don't get paid to play? So why don't we do something like this where we go to a state like Texas, where we have 2 professional stadiums, a whole bunch of college stadiums that are NFL regulation style stadiums, and even a couple of high school fields that are NFL regulation style fields. So if it's how many teams in the NFL, John, exactly? 30 teams, right? On the weeks where every team is playing, that's 15 games that you got to host. That includes Thursday night football, Monday night football. So there's at least about anywhere from 10 to 12 fields that need to be used during any given Sunday to play out a schedule of games.
Yep.
That's actually doable.
I remember when the NFL had, you remember when the Metrodome in Minnesota had that problem with its roof? You remember that a few years ago? The NFL had to go to the Minnesota College's stadium, and they had to play a football game on a college stadium's turf for Minnesota. That was only because the Metrodome had the hole. This is before obviously the Metrodome only became for football, not just for baseball. But that did have to happen. Now I'm reading an article here, and this is very interesting, about will the COVID-19 the impact it's going to have for the NFL in 2020. This is about a couple weeks ago this article was written, so I wouldn't take everything in this article with a grain of salt. But the concern now will become how far this virus goes on. And looking at the calendar, there's a lot of other NFL events coming up before the season kicks off. Let's go to May 1st to May 11th is when you have the rookie mini camps. You have the spring league meetings on May 19th. You then you have training camp and the Hall of Fame game in August in Canton. So that's also around the period. You also have the OTAs. That's when you have all the, the non-voluntary, like voluntary training sessions. A lot of, a few players are already blowing them off. They're not going to go because of COVID-19.
Yeah, of course not.
But but you do have to take these into account. That's a very big concern of how are these players going to go get trained? How are they going to be able to keep themselves in shape, get themselves ready for an NFL season that we're not sure will start on time?
Well, you are talking about a bunch of millionaires who have a lot of equipment, trainers, people like that in their home. Staying in shape isn't my concern. It's the safety of the athletes when they leave their homes that's my concern. It's how can we keep the players and the people who work for the NFL safe. Now, I know everybody's going to say, but Mouth, you said, how are you going to keep all these people? Let's count this. All 30 teams have 60-man rosters, so we're talking about 1,200 people plus staffs and this that we have to isolate and do. The one reason the NFL could maybe pull it off is because of the low amount of actual games that these teams have to play. A. B. Later in the year when hopefully the pandemic has died down or has been eliminated. C. If you could do it in a place like Texas, which has a lot of NFL stadiums, quality style stadiums, that can actually, the field is regulation and it can actually host an NFL game, you could actually do it within that state, keep players safe, keep fans away, and not have to expose players to each other more than once a week. Then those players go back in quarantine, they go to their practice facility. I'm sure high schools would lend their football fields and colleges would do the same, especially if they're closed in September, which universities might be doing mainly online learning, stuff like that. We don't know how the world is going to respond when it comes to schools being open. But let's say the situation follows a sensible pattern and schools are still somewhat closed, or at least college athletics are closed, then we could have a situation where NFL players could stay at college facilities. They each have a home practice space or whatever, and then you play the games, and all you would need is 10 to 12 regulation style stadiums to be active at once, so that you could host at most like 24 teams playing.
I'm reading this piece. It's very interesting. I want to bring this up about a shortened season. This is another idea the NFL has been talking about. Maybe if the NFL shortens the season and, maybe with the new playoff format that they're trying to implement with 7 teams in each conference, maybe that could work as well. Maybe you don't have to play 16 games. Maybe you play a couple less games, maybe play 15, maybe play a little around 14. Who knows?
Yeah, give the pandemic more time to die off, have a 10-game season, and have the playoffs.
That'll be curious if Goodell takes that. That'll be very interesting if Roger Goodell goes that direction.
But the other thing that I think they need to plan on is they need to have contingency plans. Dallas and Houston need to be ready. They need to have those stadiums up and ready to go for the start of the NFL season. They need to have Texas A&M's home. They need to have University of Texas's home ready to go. They need to have all of these places up and running and ready to go. Because to me, the state of Texas presents an opportunity where you could actually run 10 football games on the same day in the same state in order to limit the spread of the virus amongst players, amongst population centers, amongst all that. You secure the fields, and it's once a week. It's not every day that these players are outside playing, doing all this. It's not baseball where they're going to try to cram 125 games into 3 months. This isn't basketball where they still have 25 games left to go, plus 4 rounds of playoffs and an NBA final. This isn't a situation like that. There's less actual physical things where people have to be together that need to happen for the NFL to legitimately take place. I think it's possible to do it, but it has to be with no fans. It has to be controlled.
Are we going to see the NFL maybe even playing games on Thursday night games, maybe play Monday night games, or they just do everything on Sunday and that's it?
Oh, I see Thursday night football happening, Monday night football, the same way like it happened always, because think about it this way. On a Sunday, you can't have all the teams playing all at once, right? You need...
Oh, you do have a majority of them.
Yeah, a majority, but you can't house all of them. So you need Thursday night football to take a couple of games. You need Monday night football to take a couple of games. So then instead of 15 games that you have to host on a Sunday, you have to host 11 games on a Sunday. And then you could use 6 stadiums, 2 professional and 4 college style stadiums to host the games during the day, and then use the big dome in Dallas to host the Sunday night football game. It's actually logistically possible to get this done.
And it, according to the Cowboys, yeah, and I'm just reading this article on the Cowboys Wire on USA Today, yeah, and it is very possible Dallas could be the bubble city in a COVID-19 season because of, yeah, the many stadiums that Texas has. So this is just from a few days ago. So Jerry Jones has also kind of agreed with this of maybe having it in Dallas, having it in Austin, anywhere around AT&T Stadium. It's possible. But the question is the NFL has to be able to put all that together and get in coordination with every one of the college stadiums in Texas and all over to make sure it works.
Well, first off, you need the Texans to agree to it. That's first.
Of course.
You need NRG Stadium in Houston. You need that. You need Texas A&M to agree. You need University of Texas to agree. You need Austin State University to agree. You need all of these different colleges and all of these different places that host Division I or Division II NCAA college football at some form of stadium or field that belongs to them to agree to these plans. You need high school football fields to agree to become practice fields for NFL teams during the week. You need these stadiums to be open and available to NFL teams 7 days a week so that they can practice in the same places that they are playing. There's a lot of logistical hurdles to go through. However, the one big logistical hurdle that every other sport has that the NFL doesn't have is this. You don't have to play upwards to 100 games. All you have to do over 17 weeks is present 15 games of football per week.
Sounds reasonable. It
is. It's reasonable. It can be done. There's enough space. There's enough stadiums. And it can be done safely. The only thing is, how do we protect the players? How do we guarantee they don't get the virus? Will there be enough testing available that testing NFL players every week won't jeopardize the amount of tests needed for the general public? Do we admit fans in a socially distant manner into the stadiums, or do we have no fans? How do we go about doing this?
Those are very, very interesting questions.
But those logistical questions could actually possibly be answered. That's my point.
I don't believe for the rest of this year we're going to really see fans in the stadium for the rest of this year. I just don't see it until a vaccine miraculously pops up. I don't see fans in stadiums for the rest of 2020. I don't see it.
I don't either, but you never know. But the thing that everybody really needs to worry about is this. When it's time for the NFL season to start, are we really, really on the downside of that curve where the curve has almost flattened back to the bottom?
Or do you worry about a second wave? Or a second wave you have to worry about as well.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that a second wave isn't coming for the autumn. That's first. We don't know. Let's say by all accounts that the virus is mostly eradicated in the middle of July, and then we get the second wave that everybody keeps talking about in the fall, and then we all have to shelter in place again. Then all of this becomes a moot point. If the pandemic goes away enough in July that it is actually safe to open, So, and when I say safe to open, I don't mean that people aren't going to get the virus anymore. I mean that if you get the coronavirus, you could legitimately go to your local hospital or your local doctor and receive treatment like you would for any other illness in this country before coronavirus came along. If
Already,
we
other
could get
states are
to that
reopening.
point, yeah, if we could get to that point where everybody who needs coronavirus treatment can get it, and people who get coronavirus aren't dying at an alarming rate, then all of this can happen. Second thing,
Yeah.
second thing, we need logistical planning to make sure it does happen. The state of Texas seems to be the best idea. Jerry Jones seems to be in agreement with what I'm saying here. But the NFL does need to negotiate with these colleges. They do need to negotiate with the Players Association as well. That's the other thing. A new contract is starting. So this NFL season would be taking place under the new CBA. So what in the new CBA addresses situations like this? Or is this something that has to be renegotiated? Is it mandatory for the players to play? Are there some players that are going to decide they don't want to play? And then this opens up opportunities for other players, maybe former XFL guys or AFL guys who are willing to play during a pandemic and come in and replace other players. Are we going to have replacement players? Who's going to be playing? What kind of television coverage are we getting? Who's going to be broadcasting all of this? All of this needs to be figured out. But my point is, at least, we could get some form of logistical idea behind it. It doesn't sound completely impossible because all the state of Texas has to do is be able to hold 11 games consecutively on a Sunday. That's possible.
Speaking of the NFL CBA, I just want to bring it up very quick. The current new CBA was agreed to by the Players Association literally March 15th, just about a month ago. So this new deal is going to run until 2030. This current new CBA will run until 2030. So we don't have to really worry about anything crazy with that coming up yet. Same thing with the NBA. The NBA is still under their current CBA for another 3-4 more years.
Yeah, but the issue I'm talking about with the NFL is what in the CBA talks about what to do during a pandemic.
There's not much in here that I'm reading about it. It just mentions about the 17-game about expanding the season to 17 games, maybe playing 14.
Well, I know they don't have anything in there. So my point is, the players are going to be literally putting their lives at risk to play. So what kind of extra added thing is going to have to be put into the CBA in order for the players to be able to play? They're going to have to negotiate that with owners. NFL Players Union is going to have to negotiate that with the owners. But you know what? Even with all of these logistical issues, the main logistical issue that football doesn't have that all the other sports do is simply this. They don't have to play nearly as many games as the other sports. They only have to play a fourth of what the NBA plays about. They only have to play about a tenth or less of what the MLB has to play. So people aren't expecting NFL programming every single day.
No.
One day a week. No, and then for the other days, you keep all the players sequestered with each other. It's actually possible. So with that, I think I want to take a nice big rubber stamp and put done on this show. Let's wrap it up real quick. The Jets, hopefully they take a wide receiver. Hopefully the Giants just draft offensive line like they should and not do what I'm hearing about Herbert going to the Giants and Giants are interested in him and drafting him. I hope that's a bunch of nonsense and hearsay. The most I think that would happen, if you really want to go into bizarro land, is that Gettleman will draft one of the quarterbacks and then trade the quarterback to whatever team drafts the O-lineman that they want. And then they work out a package with that team. But to me, that doesn't make sense. You might as well just trade the pick or get the best offensive lineman available on the board. That's first. Second off, I believe the NFL can and will have a season in 2020. I just think it's going to be logistically in Texas. You're going to see empty stadiums, and the state of Texas is going to become NFL land for about.
This is our new reality. This is our new reality. That's what it is.
What do you think about all that, Johnny? Any final points for the listeners before we go?
Yes, of course. You can listen to all of our Downtown Sports podcasts via Spotify and on Anchor.fm. We will have a show every week. We have rants that we just posted yesterday. We'll be putting more of those up every single week on Anchor and can be heard on Spotify. But we're Downtown Sports. For John the Mouth of the South Schiavone, I'm Jonathan the Beast of the East Pariente. We'll see you guys again next week with more outlooks on potential sports resuming, and will sports be eventually heading back into the forefront again during COVID-19?
And the other thing that we're going to talk about next week, and I think me and John are going to agree on this, we have lives outside of sports. So I don't think a lot of sportscasters are going into what are they doing for fun? What kind of things interest sports people outside of sports? What can we use to replace the thrill and the joy of watching live sports? We'll get into that next week as well.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you again.